Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to begin by giving all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Recha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and to the apostles of Great Millstone, and then our respected brothers that they're pushing and spreading the gospel of Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, to the four corners of the world. Now, through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, I just wanted to do a quick lesson on an article. And but before I read it, actually just bring out the title on an article which is entitled Niger orders religious preachers to obtain license to preach, right? And as we read the articles, we're going to find out why they are requiring license, right, for preaching. And so the purpose of this article, right, if you're in Babylon, is to have you understand, or at least help with your imagination when it comes to the day of the Lord, right? Or when it comes to the prophecies of the scriptures being fulfilled. A lot of times when we talk about, concentration camps and a dystopian society, it is difficult for Americans to envision this. But you gotta understand that it takes little effort, right? It takes very, very little effort for people in power to simply put out orders like this, and eventually the lives of every civilian underneath them are what are changed. And so I'm gonna bring out this one precept. Why do I have this up? This is the book of 2 Ezra, chapter 16, verse 70. It says, "For there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord." All right? And so this is one of the many ways that this can come to pass. I mean this to be a very short video, so I'm just going to read this article and end it right there. All right? So it says the Niger state government has banned any form of religious preaching in the state and ordered anyone who wants to preach to obtain a license. The Director General of the Niger State Religious Affairs, Umar Farouk, confirmed the ban in a telephone chat on Thursday and said any preacher who wants to preach must obtain a license. He disclosed what is Amos 8 and 11, right? The famine, the Lord shall bring a famine, but not a famine of bread, but a famine of the word. Let me check that. This is something the Lord will do on this side. Amos 8 and 11, it says, "Behold, the days come, saith Lord Yahweh, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of fear in the words of the Lord Yahweh." Let me see if there's another one here. Give me a minute. Let me see. Right, the book of Ezekiel 3 and 26. Right, so it says, "But thou, O son of man, behold, they shall put bands upon thee, and shall bind thee with them, and thou shalt not go out among them. And I will make thy tongue cleave to the roof of thy mouth, and thou shalt be dumb, and shalt not be to them a reprover, for they are a rebellious house." And so for all the pushback that these people have done against the Lord, one of the judgments that the Lord is bringing upon them is what is taking wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, which is stability in those times. The Lord would take away that stability from them. And it's going to come by way of him what? Finally doing what they have been wishing for all this while, right? Which is for the prophets of the Lord to be quiet. And the Lord was going to say, well, if that's what you want, I'm going to take them away. But when I bring judgment and you ask for reproof, you ask for correction, I ain't going to give it to you, right? And that's what the word reproof means. Let me see. A reprover. Oops. A man, a champion, a servant. All right. Let's see. There are different usages for that word. Right. A leader, military commander. A servant and minister of God, right? I want a nice word that kind of encompasses all these ideas into one. All right, let me just do different translations. Right, rebuke, reprove. A mediator, yeah, there it is. Because really, when the prophets of the Lord go out there, when we rebuke the nations, in a sense, we are a mediator, right? We are a mouthpiece of the Lord. That's why the scripture talks about us being ambassadors of the Lord. And so there isn't going to be any mediator, I like that word, anyone else to hear the wishes of the Lord, right? And all they're going to feel is the judgment of the Lord. And so, continuing in this article, it says he disclosed that preachers have between today and the next 2 months to obtain their licenses. It is true the state government has banned preaching. Any preacher who wants to preach must secure a license between now and the next 2 months. And this was something that was planned in France, and you had the Christian community, they went up against it, right? But this is not something that is entirely far from the abilities of any government bodies really on earth. It says all they need to do is visit our office, get and fill out the form, after which they will have to face a panel that will screen them before they can start preaching. This is why it's going to be the famine of the word, because you are going to have people out there still claiming, right, to be of the Lord, having Bibles and all these things, but the Spirit of the Lord ain't dealing with them, because the only people out there that are going to be in that dystopian society will be those that are sanctioned by Esau. And these are going to be men, if they are down with Edomites or Esau's kingdom, or even these heathens in general, that means they've sold out and they have nothing of value to your soul. Another, right, that is going to be a famine of the word. This is my opinion, is that preaching is a command, and the government is not paying anyone for doing the job. People are preaching in order to earn the pleasure of God. So the government cannot dictate who preach to and who not to preach. But at the same time, if there are people who are going out of their way to cause security threats using abusive words and so on, then the government can have control over that in order to maintain peace and security. So these are the words, right? This is why Yahushua was put to death, because he preached of things that threaten the rulership, right, of the scribes and the Pharisees and the Romans. They had a problem with him when he said the temples was going to be destroyed. And these Pharisees and wicked scribes and Pharisees didn't like that, because that was their seat. The highest honor in Israel at that time was not a king, it was a priest. So these synagogues out there, they had power over the nation. And so when there was preaching of, when Yahushua prophesied that all that was going to be put to an end, they had Yahushua put to death. You understand? And so what's stopping them from twisting that same narrative onto us? When we come out here, what do we say? We say Babylon is going to be destroyed by thermonuclear missiles. We talked about how Amalek, we talk about how Esau, Edom is the wicked, and how they're going to be put to death by the Lord, how they're going to go into captivity. These are all how they're going to, this is what they see as threats. Now, these messages are not coming from us, right? We don't wake up one day and say, let me go out, let me scream these things and go my way. These are messages from the Lord, right? And these are inspired by the Spirit. But because they can't physically put their hand on God or even make war with the Most High, they do what they can, which is come up against the messengers, come up against the ambassadors, and they will term us all kinds of names, and they will, man, believe it or not, these men will have all sorts of things, to make us look bad, to even so bad that the public might even cheer for us to be put to death. But this is how the prophets were. The prophets were political. The prophets spoke of things that would rattle, or even agitate people. That's what the word of the Lord is supposed to do. It's supposed to incite, a spirit. No, not incite. It's supposed to invoke an uneasy spirit in you, right? So that oh my God, I'm pissing off the Most High. What must I do? This, that, and the third. That's the kind of reaction the Lord is looking for. So when He sends men out there, He doesn't send men out there that are going to speak, in soft tones and try to sugarcoat words and try to make you feel like, and try to make you feel good as if you had never heard anything in the first place, right? He wants a man that will give things to you raw. When you hear it, he's blunt, but it's all truthful. Everything that we say is in the scriptures. Even when people believe it to be too extreme, when we open the scriptures, it's right there in the scriptures. There's nothing that we're saying that is not in the scriptures, And so this is something that they're going to follow, right? They are going to do this thing. And then it's going to what? It's going to be done here in Babylon. And then what? Prophecies must come to pass. Right? There are horrible times ahead of us, which is why now more so than ever, this liberty that we have is for us to what? Accumulate as much spiritual bravery as possible, as much faith as possible, because the times that are coming, only a brave man and a man that is saturated in the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Nashai can overcome. All right? And so the purpose of this article was for us to, know that things are getting serious, right? We see these things upon our watchtowers, and now we blowing the trumpet. So now you have that information, right? Now it's up to you to do what you got to do. All right, so, in closing, we want to give all praise, honor, glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Ruach HaKodesh. Until next time, Shalom. And Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahshua, Brakatham. Toya Akim Sanakos for listening, truth and sincerity. May the blessing of election be upon the house. Until next time, Shalom.